Hi everyone. Today I am addressing an elephant in the room, and that is morality in bolt action. Um, some time ago, another gaming channel, Littlewars TV, made a video in which they played a game that featured. It was a game called Falluja. Link in the description, and that featured, of course, the relatively recent, in living memory conflict in Iraq. And it had Iraqi insurgents fighting off American Marines in a fictional Fallujah town with suicide bombers and everything. Um, and quite recently, I also made a video where I stated that I was building the OUN for bolt action. Um, and that got a comment that sort of had me thinking. And it was a question, it was a comment that how can you really build something that is that evil? Because um, the OUN were they supplied guards for the concentration camps, and they were mean enough that they shocked the SS guards, um, and they committed terrorist atrocities, and they murdered, they committed genocidal atrocities against Poles and Russians and Jews. Yeah, that happened in real life. So today I'm addressing morality in games. Um, and I want you to think about this. When we are building armies, we do so for different reasons, right? Um, we are playing war games here. We're playing games out of the most evil thing that we humans do, make war on each other. And sometimes those wars include atrocities that are unfathomable. Um, for instance, I know a guy who has a Mongol army. Um, the Mongols are arguably the worst empire in history. They murdered more people percentage-wise than any other nation ever, um, because there were a fewer people at that point, but they also murdered millions. Um, he has a Mongol army. Is that wrong? um, where's the morality in that? These guys were evil, or what we today would think of as evil, because they murdered millions of people for no other reason than they didn't want to surrender their town or whatever. Um, I descend from Vikings. I'm Danish. The Vikings, we assaulted our neighbors just to raid and pillage and enslave their peoples. Um, I have a Viking army standing on my shelf. I play it with Saga. Is that evil? I know a lot of people who play Germans in bolt action. Is that evil? Uh, they have maybe even SS armies. Is that evil? Is that wrong? And the argumentation goes here that what we do, our models represent something in real life, that they commemorate something. That was the word that the commenter used, commemorate. And I'm not sure I agree. But then again, I am Danish. We have a very liberal attitude towards anything to do with freedom of speech, and we have a very liberal attitude to history as well, where we don't sort of. Sometimes when I look at America, I feel like some nations, some people, Americans maybe especially, are overly sensitive about everything that has to do with history. I am not at all. Um, so for me, I have seen, and it's sort of creeping into bold action as well. I have seen events that disallowed certain armies because of their theme. Um, I know of at least two times that this has happened, one time was an alternative reality CSA army. So an army that was built around what if the Confederate States of America had survived and had fought on into World War II. So it had wonderful kit bashing and it had everything going on. It was really beautifully painted. It was disallowed because of the iconography of the CSA flags on those minis. Um, is that right or wrong? Um, I know a lot of guys, and I know of at least one instance. I know a lot of guys who paint swastikas on their German or Finnish troops. Um, so you might have a German swastika flag draped across their tank because the Germans actually did this sometimes in order for their own planes to recognize which tanks were theirs. Um, that iconography is in many places in Germany. It's illegal. Um, and I know of at least one time where a friend of mine he was barred from having his army shown on at the event because you couldn't show that. Um, and when does the feeling of representation and commemoration, when does that stop? Or is it even something that you should take into account? That is something I think we need to have a little bit of a discussion about. Um, is it in living memory? So is it when people still remember this happened? Is it when people still experienced it on their own bodies? Because most people who lived through the Second World War are dead by now. And I mean that would mean that the Littlewars TV couldn't put on their Falluja game, right? Because that would be wrong somehow. Um, you couldn't put on a game in Afghanistan with the Taliban fighting the U.S. Marines. Um, but I think you could. Should you? I don't know. My main worry then would be: is it interesting? Is it an interesting game? Because for me, bold action is a game. It's not history. It's not representative of my political opinions. I don't make armies because of my political convictions. I don't make armies to represent me in any way. I know some people do. I know some people make an army because their granddad fought in the Second Airborne or whatever. Perfectly fine. That is you commemorating your granddad. Um, I have made one of these that was almost a commemoration, but of something completely different. When I made my Czechoslovakian army, I was commemorating my uncle, whom I'd inherited those toys from. I wasn't commemorating the Czechoslovakians, although I did need to find someone that they could represent these models, but that wasn't what I was commemorating. And most of the time, I don't commemorate stuff with my armies. I don't do that. I don't see the point. These are game pieces. These are pieces on a board. And for my sake, we could just as well use bottle caps. That would be fine. Except I do enjoy the painting aspect of the hobby as well. I do enjoy building the miniatures. It all looks splendid. So for me, the visual aspect of building and painting stuff is intriguing and interesting. And I don't think that anyone has the right to limit what I can and cannot enjoy about that. Um, so, to you who commented on me, I don't want people to argue with you. That wouldn't be fair. It's not something that we should argue about at all. I would say this: there are different reasons to enjoy this as a hobby. I have never ever hidden that I enjoy this as a competitive hobby. Secondly, apart from it being a competitive hobby, and that is most of what I do with Bold Action, it's all about competitiveness. It's all about winning games. It's all about this being a game. Might as well play chess, right? Except I'm not that great at chess. Um, so it's a game for me. The second part of the hobby I enjoy is painting. When I paint, I do so because I want something that I enjoy painting. So if I enjoy painting SS P. Camo of the SS Viking division, the Danes who actually fought for Hitler and who committed atrocities on the Eastern Front, they murdered people. I can do that because I am not condoning the actions of SS Viking. I am not condoning the actions of the OUN against Jews or Polish people or Russians or Ukrainians or whoever they killed. I'm not condoning any of that. I am simply stating that I would like to paint those uniforms, and I think I could do something with that in a game. And that would be the theme that I would want to represent. Um, so, yeah, that is my attitude, and I know some people feel differently about this. Um, but I don't think anyone is right on this. I would just remind people who disagree with me that this is a game, and there are different ways you can enjoy this game, and for different reasons. Your commemoration of your granddad, or of the heroes who fought and died in the Second World War, or of the villains and their atrocities, doesn't influence me. It's not what I'm here for. So, that was it. Have a nice day. Cheers.